Hey guys, ooh, today, well, today I watched, Mama. This movie was, well, this movie was fantastic. This, honestly, after one viewing, I am, I would put this in my top five favorite horror movies I've ever seen. Um, I mean, I really expected nothing less than perfection from Guillermo del Toro, who is a master at his craft. I mean, the guy is just so good at at subverting expectations for what he does, especially with horror. He's done some action movies that were good. I liked Pacific Rim a lot. It was a very fun movie. It was kind of a popcorn type action flick in a lot of ways that had some good stuff in it. You know, he did Blade 2, and Blade 2 was great. It was the best out of the trilogy. But when he does horror, that's where he really shines. Especially because out of the three main um, well-known, sorry, that I blanked on what I was trying to look for there, the word I was looking for. With his three most well-known horror flicks, he has changed his formula and added a new element to it every time. Pan's Labyrinth, which is such a great film and so perfect and so beautiful in so many ways. And you're going to hear that word a lot, beautiful, because he has such a great visual eye. Pan's Labyrinth was, while it was, yes, a horror film, it was fantasy. And that was that extra element that he threw in. It was fantasy, it was unrealistic, but it was such a visually stunning world that he created that you get sucked into it and you think that it's real. With Crimson Peak, he went with kind of a gothic drama. It was almost a soap opera. And that's what he was going for. He was obviously taking a lot of clues from shows like Dark Shadows, which was a gothic soap opera, and he was creating his own version of that with a little bit scarier. Instead of going traditional route with traditional monsters like Dark Shadows did, which was vampires and werewolves and things like that, and all this stuff combined, he went with human beings in a haunting. But again, a visually stunning movie, very colorful, very beautiful, and that soap opera element that he threw into it. Excuse me? My cat's crazy, in case you didn't know. That soap opera element that he threw into it just enhanced the story. It made it better. It was interesting. It was a very, very good blend of scares, horror, and traditional soap opera elements. Love stories, love triangles, things like that. Now, with this movie, I'm not sure that everybody will agree with me with what I think was the extra element that he decided to throw in with this, but it's just what I think. And I think that extra element that he was pulling, that extra that he was pulling ideas from, was film noir. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. First off, this movie is just so good. Everything about it. It has an interesting story. It has great characters. It has characters that actually have character development. And one of the things I really liked about it was that all the characters in this movie, you liked them all for the most part. You didn't really like Aunt Jane, but she wasn't around long enough to really have any matter. Um, you felt some sort of sympathy for every character, and you couldn't. There was no specific character in this movie that you could hate. Even the titular Mama, you couldn't really hate her. I mean, you couldn't really do anything with her because she was, not real. She was haunting. But you learn her backstory, and you almost feel sympathy for her, and you can't really hate her, and I like that. I like being able to watch a movie that has some good scares and has a quote unquote villain, even though she wasn't really a villain, but not hate anybody in the movie. I think that's important in a lot of ways, and it's not many people that can make a movie like that and do it right. Guillermo del Toro is one of them. He can make a movie with likable characters that you still want to root for it, even if they're the quote unquote bad guy. Visually stunning movie, even though it doesn't have a lot of those elements that some of his other movies did. It doesn't have the fantasy elements like Pan's Labyrinth did. It doesn't have all the color like Crimson Peak did. Crimson Peak was just splashed with color. Lots of reds, lots of dark reds, lots of dark blues, things like that. And there was so much surrealism in the paint, and it was almost like a surrealist painting. This movie doesn't have that, but what it has are individual, beautiful shots. And I'm going to put one up right here. When that shot came up in the movie, and it was near the very beginning, my jaw actually dropped because it was such an interesting element to it. I mean, it combines so many elements of the movie, and it doesn't look like anything, but there's a lot there. There's the feeling of isolation, there's a feeling of love between the sisters, there's that feeling of protection, and that's such an important element to the story. And right after that, they get into the credits for the movie. And the credits are so incredibly well done. But I don't want to talk about the story too much, but basically these two sisters, one very young, one a little bit older, and the older one is 5 years old, knows how to speak, still has a lot of her, is already starting to form a personality and things like that. And that becomes important later. But basically, they get left alone out in these woods for 5 years. And they are being taken care of and protected by somebody they call Mama, who is this haunting ghost type thing. That you eventually learn her backstory and why she's there and why she's protecting the kids and things like that, and it's actually really good. It's a really powerful story that's being told. But in the credits, it's all hand drawings done by kids, like with crayon, and it kind of tells some of the story of those intervening 5 years between where they get left alone and where they end up being found. And basically they're adopted by their uncle and his girlfriend, and things start happening in the house, and they're trying to protect them, and they're trying to figure it out. But one of the really interesting elements of the movie that plays throughout, that plays from the moment the children are found up until the end, is the mystery of who Mama is, her backstory, why she's there, why she's with the kids, why she's protecting the kids, why she's wanting to hurt other people. And it's a mystery that plays out through the rest of the movie, and you only get information. You only get a little bit of information at a time, and that's how I feel that the film noir elements come into play in it, because the main person that's investigating this whole thing is their doctor, who is doing hypnotherapy sessions with the oldest daughter, because she's the only one that can still speak, or so they think, and is trying to find out who is Mama, who is she. The little girl tells this story in one of her hypnotherapy sessions about a mother who jumps off a cliff with her baby and dies. And so he starts to look into all the information that she's given him and finds the case and finds out who it is. And it's just like this mad dash search for answers. And you find out at the end of the movie that one of the reasons why he's helping this family keep the children so much, because that's the element where their aunt is trying to take them away and stuff like that, whatever, is that he's fascinated by the case and he wants to study it, and that he's writing a book. And you find that out later when the girlfriend of the uncle steals his laptop from his office. And it's one of those moments where it seems like it's almost put into where you want to not like the guy because, oh, he's writing a book, he's trying to profit off of it. At the same time, you're like, so what? It doesn't matter that he's writing a book. This is a fascinating case. And even if he was still trying to help. And that's what I mean by he's writing characters that it's almost like he wants you to not like the character, but you still do. You know? You forgive the character for taking advantage of these children's situations to write a book, because he's still getting answers and he's still trying to help. And I think I could, honestly, I think I could probably talk about this movie for another 20 or 30 minutes and I would not be satisfied. That's how good this movie is. It is great. It doesn't rely on traditional scares, and that's something that I really liked about it. There are a couple of jump scare moments, because it's just impossible to get away from those anymore in modern horror. But there's only a few of them. They're used very sparingly. The horror in this movie comes more from a sense of feeling unsettled, not really disturbed. It's not like anything that you're seeing on the screen is like, oh, that's really disturbing. It's more that you're just kind of feeling a little bit uncomfortable, especially in certain situations where, and a big part of it is because you don't see Mama. You only catch little glimpses of her throughout the whole movie. When it gets closer to the end, you see her. And at the very end, you fully see her. It's like only the children can see her. And there's always this feeling when you're watching a movie of, is Mama there? Is she there somewhere? Am I going to see her doing something in a corner? Am I going to see her pop something up or anything like that? And most of the time, she's not. But it's like Del Toro was really playing on, it's almost like a muscle memory that we have built in when we're watching horror movies, that we're always on the lookout for something in the corner, or something that's going to happen, or is he there? Is something about to pop up? What's going to happen? But nothing does. When you see Mama in the movie, you see her. There's no hiding it. She's there. Something happens, and you know it. You know it's coming. You know it's coming when something's going to happen, or when you're going to see something. You know, he uses music cues and things like that. And to me, that's brilliant that he's not trying to subvert the audience in that way. He's not trying to keep it hidden that he's about to scare you. It's right there. It's like, oh, yeah, something's going to happen now. And it does. But it still kind of gets to you. It's just that uncomfortable feeling throughout the movie. And to me, that is the mark of a good horror movie. A good horror movie does not rely on jump scares, it relies on a sense of unease and a sense of being slightly uncomfortable. Now, this movie isn't as bad as some other movies that I've seen that build on tension and unease and being uncomfortable. But what is there is quality. And this is a horror movie that has a lot of elements going for it, and they all work together to create a masterpiece. Good acting, good directing, fantastic story, a sense of unease, a sense of mystery, a sense of wanting to know the final story, the end of the story. You want to finish the movie because you want to know what's happening. You want to know who she is. You want to know what she wants. You want to know how it's going to turn out. And it keeps you glued to the movie. I couldn't have turned this movie off even if I had wanted to. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Check this movie out. 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys.